Good. Okay. So this is the Drupal usability meeting for April 11th, 2017. And we plan to talk about workspaces, the layout sprint, the ideas queue, and roadmaps and how to reconcile them, and progress and updates on the sample content initiative.
In that order, I think so.
Okay, let's do that. So workspaces.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. I have a new monitor, so I'm not sure if it's big enough. If you can see this,
It's good.
Is it fine?
It's fine.
All right. Yeah. So there are a few changes. Some smaller, some a bit larger, and some new things, new screens, which I wanted to show you. So let's go through that. So this is, just very quickly, this is a version which you've seen before. It was, I think most of you are familiar with the workspace switcher, which we have here. And so the process was, when you deploy, it is first updating workspace and checking for conflicts. And after all of the conflicts are resolved, it actually is deploying. So one thing which, or one feedback which I got here was that when there isn't any conflict, this process is actually very smooth, and you don't really see that there are actually 3 steps which are going on here. So that was one concern which I tried to address. And so I came up with this or 3-step process, and which shows which phases have been done already. You can play it again. So first, updating process 1 is done. It shows, it checks if this is done, checking for conflicts done. And third process, deploying, is separate. So there is one thing. Another thing was that we wanted to show if there are any updates available for the workspace. So now it has the notification, and when you expand that, the notification displays here as well. The deploy message used to have a title field, a separate, so that is removed so that we can save space, and also it wasn't really important. So if there is a conflict, just go to the screen. And when you go, when you actually cancel resolving conflicts, you will get a workspace switcher which indicates that there is a conflict. So you can undo updates which have introduced that conflicts. So that is, if you want to resolve that conflict in a different way than through the conflict resolution screens here, so you can actually undo updates. And I think on the end, the process will be always from left to right, but I think it's nice for now. So another thing is that if your current workspace is in draft, you don't have the deploy module, because obviously there are no changes in this workspace, so you don't have anything to deploy. And another new thing actually is the way how you can view all of the workspaces. So originally, I was thinking about coming up with some sort of hierarchy view or some tree or something like that. But I think there are so many different ways how individual companies or websites can have their workflows set up that I sort of decided just to go with a with no hierarchy and just showing all of the workspaces which there are, and instead showing filters. So you can either filter by a name or by a workspace status, and you can preview the workspace. You can switch between them, between the previews as well, and then you can select which workspace you want to switch to. And you can also directly switch from all workspace screen.
Say, Joseph, what's the significance of the colors of those icons? Like when
I'm sorry?
when you go back to like the view all workspaces thing, and some of the icons are red, yellow, green. And
Yes. So that color symbolizes the workspace status. So in which, let's call it moderation state it is. And right now, blue is it's draft. So there are actually no changes. Green is production, red is in conflict, and yellow is ready for deployment. But I assume these could be configurable per site.
Okay. So sorry. So it's just a random thing. Like like green doesn't mean production, red doesn't mean development, yellow doesn't.
It does. It does.
It does. Okay. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
It might be useful to put that in that filter up there then, because like it says draft, but there's no icon. And like one thing I think is I'd want to be able to like filter by the icon. So maybe include icons with the text descriptions.
Yeah, maybe I originally had the labels in that color, but I thought it was too colorful, so I removed those.
Colorful, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but maybe adding the icons there as well would be nice. Yeah.
It might be nice if they were different icons, because like one thing we need from an accessibility point of view is not to have color be the only differentiation, whatever that word is, between things. So for example, if production was green and also like had a little shine next to it, meaning it had just been deployed, and if red was red but also had like a exclamation point on it, or you know what I mean, like something like that.
Yes.
It would be useful, because I imagine when you hover over these you get the difference, but like it's not clear, it's not obviously clear to me as a sighted user like what the difference between those are. So it might be good to have subtle differences in the icons there to make it more clear.
Well, the only reason why I didn't, I was considering creating different icons for different workflow state, but the reason I didn't do that is that there can be so many workflow states. Like, for example, there can be a state for medical review, legal review, supervisor review, or whatever. So that was the reason for that. That's why I only went for colors.
Yeah, you almost need like it's funny because you almost need like two different axes. Like if there was a a settings page for this, it'd be like, what icon do you want? Do you want in development, the in draft, or the needs review, or the because those general states make sense no matter what your workflow states are called. And then also, what color do you want? So you can differentiate. The blue in draft means pending legal review or whatever. That's
well, yeah, okay. Maybe what I can do is to have at least conflict, production, or live, and something like needs review.
Maybe this is one opinion, so take it for what it's. The only thing that I worry about.
We're discussing colors, so the rest is cool.
It's not, I didn't say change the colors. The colors actually look really nice. But I'm just trying to kind of give you a preview of what the feedback from the accessibility team is likely to be. And it's likely to be that different colored icons are not sufficient to differentiate these different states. So that's all.
Yeah. Well, this is one not issue, but interesting detail when designing for Drupal, that there is so many options which can end up, using this. So yeah.
So if somebody makes a new state, which colors are they getting then?
Well, the way I see it is that when you create a workspace, no, when you define workflow for workspaces, it's there where you define what color or icon, in this case, that specific workflow state would use.
Okay.
So you're saying that the people that defines the workflow choose a random color or a predefined color?
I would probably go with some predefined, just that it's easier for them, but I assume that could be changed.
Wouldn't give too many options to non-designers with color, for example.
Yeah, but again, for the same reason that you can have so many workflow states per different organizations, I don't think it's wise just to limit them to use only these 4 colors or only these 3 and everything else for something else.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we need to keep that in mind, that maybe some workflow can have, I don't know, 10 different stages or states for the workflow. So that is the tricky part. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking more in the design part. I mean, if you give the choice, the most choices they have, the most surprises you can get. So.
Yeah, so definitely, I think in the configuration there would be like this is a default 3 or 4 colors. If you can accommodate only these 3 or 4, I think it's the best. But I think we shouldn't limit. I think most people would just use what is there by default if we pick the right colors. So.
But how are you thinking on giving the choice for choosing a color, a new color?
So on the workflow state configuration page, I assume there would be either a hex field or some sort of color picker or something like that.
Okay.
I guess in the end, it would be nice to have, like, say, 10 default colors available that people can pick from, and then
Yeah.
text field for the 11th or 12th if they need it.
Yeah. I think even 10 is already too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe 4 is enough, or maximum 5.
Hey, I also saw that you added the multi-step progress bar.
Yes. Yeah, that is one thing which I wanted to get feedback on.
So it says more, but it's not like I can stop it, right? Between 2 and 3, or
no, it either stops or it just continues. Yeah. So if there is a conflict, it will stop after stage 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah, I wonder what the real value is of showing that there's 3 steps in the process. It looks nice. But yeah, when I'm installing Drupal on Simply Test, it goes through all the modules it's installing as well, and I'm not sure it's useful information. I'm not sure it's really comparable to what's happening here, but I wonder why why
Yeah.
what's the need for showing the individual steps?
Yeah, I think the biggest reason for that was, I think it was on some of our internal meetings, and someone, I assume from the business, was mentioning that people should be aware that there actually can be conflicts, and which they would have to pay attention then and resolve. So I think that was the only reason to emphasize that, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think it's that's why this is the reason why I wanted to bring it up. So
Yeah.
I wanted to get some more opinions on that.
Yeah, I think you can sense what my opinion
Yeah.
would be.
I agree with Roy that steps are really useful if you are going through different steps. I mean, if it's only one step, I mean, there are different bits of or different things that the bar is doing, so you can give that same information but without showing that steps, and the information to the user will be the same without showing steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on this one, so I'm open to suggestions, and I'm also going to show this tomorrow on our internal meeting, so we'll ask for that feedback there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it looks funky, right? But well, and I'm calling out this one specifically, but in general, this is already a very polished and iterated over design. So when I see all these nice design details, I wonder what the breakdown will be if you start looking at implementation, right? What is the must-have, should have, could have?
Yeah.
Are you? I mean, is that? Are you thinking about that? Are you almost there at that point in the design where you can say, "Hey, it looks like we've covered 95% of what we want to do here.
Yep.
We want to get stuff done for Drupal 8.4. Where do we start?"
Yes, so I think we have just arrived to that point, and I think the development focus now has been on other stuff within the workflow initiative. So there was time to sort of play with these kind of details, and I think it will be now when will be probably scaling back to some MVP first. But we didn't have that discussion based on these designs now yet.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I assume it will come within the coming days or weeks.
Let's see.
So one more
Yep.
question regarding this layout. Do you have any opinion on this? Is this a good solution, just to view all of the workspaces on a flat hierarchy or layout?
The only thing
Well, I was going to say if we really need a grid, or it could be a table, or just thinking loud, not a strong opinion.
So the reason why I went with grid was that we're sort of using these kind of cards here, That's why I sort of just transferred them here, just for easier visual recognition, I would say.
That has sense. Okay, that's also.
Yeah, I think to me this layout, I think it's probably your best option, because any logical grouping will likely break down in the other 80% of use cases.
Exactly.
So the only, but that's just adding more features to it. The only way that I could think of that might be useful is grouping them. So that something that where you could say group them by state, so that all the drafts would be on in the left column. So all the drafts would be below each other on the left, and then next to them were reviews.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but for maybe a real end user, sometimes it's actually more useful if it's grouped, let's say, for a purpose like these are only homepage
exactly.
and not really states.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah. So again, more reasons to just go by for a flat hierarchy and no grouping. And actually, these should be sorted by most recently used. So you don't have the oldest one, here on top, but ones which you use most frequently would be on the top.
It might be useful to identify your current one in this list. Or is that always the top? Yeah, maybe
it's the one here on the top.
Yeah, of course.
Current workspace.
Yeah.
Is it possible for site builders to change the way that you have decided to order them? Because, as you said, there might be different ways that make sense to organize it. Or is it just that this is the one thing that we have to take or leave it?
Do you have any examples? Like obviously the oldest would be one.
Probably as site builders will probably want to change the order according to their use case. So
can you give me some example of the use case?
Yeah, the technical question is this a view that I can?
Okay. This is a view, and in that case, it would be fine, because then site builders can set it up as they want to. Or if it's not, then is there any other way that we can actually customize it?
I'm not sure. Actually, you see these screens before our developers. So I don't know yet.
Okay, so in that case, I would say
it could be something.
As a site builder, I will look at it and think that there will be probably moments that it needs changing. For example, that you might want to add the author or something like that into it. And if it's a view, then all of those options would be available, and you don't have to think of the one way of doing it beforehand.
So you mean to add more fields in the cards, or?
No, to give the opportunity, the possibility to the users afterwards to add those extra fields when we're building sites.
I assume it could be done as a view.
Because then, if it's a view, then you don't have to find the one perfect way of doing this now.
Yeah.
And then the different sites can customize it as they need it.
Yeah. So I can bring it up as a suggestion, and we'll see what the developers.
Right. But yeah, it's an important point. If it's a view and we can change it, then the default is easy to agree on. If it would be like sort of hard-coded, we want to be very nitpicky on what the actual presentation would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other specifics that people want to call out or that you need feedback on?
I think this is all from me, unless you have any more questions or feedback.
Yeah, the state where you found conflicts. I had a question about the placement of the buttons. And you have
this would be somewhere here. Yes, this one.
You place the resolve conflict on the left and the undo on the right. And what could be the desired next step?
Resolve conflict. That's why this one is in color and is the first option. So the desire is to always to resolve conflict, and undo updates is like a fallback solution.
Okay. I think Roy might have more things to say, but I think that the main one should be on the right.
Sure, because when you go to edit page, save is first and cancel is on the is the second.
Probably, I'm not sure.
But also usually red is for deleting something, or the more destructive options. So the red button would be the button not to click.
Yeah, the red is it's a bit tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can just have this in blue.
Yeah, that would be much more consistent with other buttons.
If you have the exclamation mark icon next to conflict, like status, if you would workspace status colon, next line, icon, conflict. And the button itself could be a more regular blue one, probably.
Okay, thank you.
Most welcome. It's been great seeing this design evolve over time. And now up for the depressing breakdown to the MVP, right? Oh no, not this, not this, not this. But
Yes, yeah.
We'll
and
see.
then like trying to what the final result will be. So
yeah,
some
it's also interesting that this,
styling.
yes, it's also interesting that this uses this the dark design, right? And I think settings tray is moving to a default dark design as well. So it would be good to keep tabs on the design language there. So that
I was sort of inspired by that settings tray and outside-in concept from Kevin.
Exactly. Okay, sounds great.
All right.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great. Do we want to move on to layouts then?
Yes, we do.
Okay. What's the best way to do this? I guess I can share my screen. That's dangerous. I'm going to talk. Okay, so last week, several people got together in Vancouver, Washington at Emily and Jacob's house to do a 3-day sprint on panels, Panelizer, and all the things. I'm pasting a link in chat or in the sidebar thing of the Google Hangout. Also, this document is referenced from issue number. Sorry, that whole thing wrapped up a lot faster than I was thinking. Issue number 2811175. In the last comment there's also a link to it, so that's another way to get there. But at any rate, we had a discussion during that sprint, which was for the most part about getting stable versions of Panelizer, panels, C-tools, all that kind of stuff ready to go, ideally by DrupalCon, but we'll see. So we had a brief hour-and-a-half long discussion while we were at that sprint with various people to talk about what we want to see next for the layouts and core initiative. Because what got into 8.3 was field layout module and layout discovery. So layout discovery is nice because it's like a centralized API that's now shipping in core that other things can use, which is lovely. And then the field layout module, experimental module, is allows you to pick a different layout for, say, your articles versus your pages and that kind of thing. However, that's not quite what most people think of when they think, layouts in core. They think of the ability to create landing pages and populate content through a UI and this kind of thing. And so what we talked about is for the next steps, and there's a bunch of notes in here. But we want to essentially basically solve the node/5 use case is what we kept calling it. So the ability to not just make all article nodes different from all page nodes, but make one specific node different. Because then what you can do is you can ship Drupal 8. I'm not sure that we would actually do this, but we could at least think about doing this, where you ship Drupal 8 with a landing page content type, or maybe adjust page so it is like this, and then allow you to create one-off pages, select from a set of pre-existing default layouts, and then populate the content accordingly. And Emily has actually done a ton of work. I think it has been shown to this group before. Emily, is that correct?
Yep, we talked over the wireframes before. I have slightly more fleshed out mockups now.
Yeah, true. Did you want to take some time to show those on this call, or?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, so Emily, I'm going to not talk about that one, just let her show you. But basically, Emily did a bunch of work to actually give this stuff I'm talking about a user interface. And then what it would mean is that at least for like 8.5, we would be targeting kind of this basic use case, and then more complicated things such as, multiple defaults or some of the other stuff would still stay in contrib. And so there's going to be some work to like separate out parts of it so that the core parts are in core, the contrib stuff stays in contrib, and then there's a migration path from one to the other is basically the goal. So, so I think that's the summary. Did I miss anything that you know of?
No, that sounded right.
Okay, great. So then I'll shut up and turn it over to Emily, and she can show what she's thinking from the user interface, which has been run past all the panels people that were there, which is most of them, and they all thought that that looked great. So that's promising. So take it away. Uh-oh. Hello?
Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry, I was just pulling it up. Okay, can everyone see this?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great. So this is basically what we went over before, but put into the outside-in skin and has a little bit more. So the idea is we have this new add feature added to the main menu there, and then we have the drop-down like in Manage, except this one has the Add Landing Page added there. And so then from there, if you were to click on Add Landing Page, the settings tray, which would give you the ability to add your information about the page. And then if you're using a workflow, you would create a draft to start. And then you'd get your Add Content area. And so you'd start selecting from your block library that would open up on the right. From there, and block is just kind of a word to describe a component. It's not necessarily a block. Then these have their regions, and once you select one, this opens up this add content area here. And you would have the ability to add above and below, which I should add to my mockup. So essentially you're creating rows of stacked layout regions. So you can add and search through available content. And as you search content, you'll see it pop up there. And then you can add it to each of those regions. So that's the basic idea of a sort of flexible layout builder. So you can build out landing pages with different block types.
I liked it then, I like it now. Having only, oh, I'm hearing myself back maybe. Having only the search field for adding content might be tricky. But that already is the end of a workflow where you went through multiple steps, and those steps seem to work quite nicely. So again, if I'm focusing here, then a lot of good stuff happened in the previous steps. But this is probably something to have a closer look at.
Yeah, but I agree. I think in the original wireframes, I also had the ability to add new content here from the settings tray. So that's, I think, an important piece too.
And this is an 8.4 idea or an 8.5 idea?
8.5.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So no, that was it. So yeah, we talked over this at the sprint, and everyone seemed on board with this direction. So that was exciting.
It is.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Does this mean that in 8.4 we need to get more plumbing in place so that this may happen, or is 8.4? Will 8.4 also have some user-facing goodies, or is 8.4 focus on plumbing?
So mostly 8.4 is focused on stabilizing what we've got.
Okay. Yeah.
Because right now, Contrib does not, like, there isn't a stable layout solution at all for Drupal 8, and it's now going on 2 years since Drupal 8's release. So the goal is to get that problem solved, probably most likely in Contrib first. But Contrib can't stabilize unless Core stabilizes, so it's like a whole situation with that. So I guess it depends on how long it takes to get at least layout discovery to stable in 8.4, because we need, that's sort of a prerequisite to having, you know, panels, display suite, and yada yada working. So, so if we make hella of things ahead of time, then we might get a little bit of stuff into 8.4. But my guess is that most of the 8.4 efforts are going to be spent stabilizing Contrib. And then in 8.5 is when we're really going to start focusing on getting this stuff into Core.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I think what we can do is make sure that Emily's mockups, you know, as much as you can, you know, every time you actually go to make mockups with code, you run into all kinds of silly things. But as much as we can, shake out the bugs in those mockups so that they're ready to implement, like, from the get-go. So that once 8.5 opens for development, we can kind of like, boom, here's a big patch, you know, would be cool. So.
Yeah, I agree. 8.4 in that sense should also be about designing this. Yeah, so that 8.5 can actually build it. Okay, well.
Okay, speaking of designs, do we want to jump to sample content?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let me see if I can share my screen. How's that? Everybody seen that?
Yep.
Yep.
So I don't know if have we gone through sample content in one of these Tuesday UXs before? I don't know. Quick bit of background is we are working to produce both sample content and a sample theme, which effectively is to serve as a demo for Drupal, mainly to show off core capability and great design, hopefully. And it's currently based on the idea around a food publisher's website for a magazine, for a food publisher producing a magazine. And what you can see on the screen at the moment is the original sketches that we produced. So this comes from the there was the original sample content project was based around the farmers market So we were working on producing effectively a content model that showed off relationships between different content types. And I guess the best thing to do is just to fire through saying that the key points that we've covered so far on this project. So as of the last meeting, I think we've got general agreement that we're producing a, MVP is basically a simple site which includes recipes, includes articles, includes taxonomy, and we use obviously Drupal views, to show off listing of content. We want to be showing off view modes and how content can be pulled through. So this initial sketch, which was just a sketch, showed the type of style that we could be following, where it's lots of great looking images of obviously food and the magazine itself, bringing that through and promoting that. And I've basically been working on wireframes and brand. So we started the project with an initial name of Salva for the magazine. And we've just been moving that on since the last meeting. I think it was Roy that suggested we produced a list of names, and umami was suggested as a working title that we could work against for the project. And so I'm just playing around at the moment with brand, just starting that project this evening. And in amongst all that, we've been working on doing wireframes for the various content types and some of the views. So here you can see the idea of listing out articles and actual article pages. So the idea with the article pages is to get really great looking rich content, showing off how easy it is to produce field-based content that looks great and is easily edited. And we're just working on recipes, laying out, producing a layout for that. And once I've got some brand ideas coming together for the actual for the working title of the magazine, I'm going to produce further designs and start evolving the various design options. That's basically where we're up to so far. I think that's a fair overview. Any questions?
Nope, makes sense.
Yeah, we've been working on user stories. I forgot to mention that. That's pretty important. So we've got some shared docs that we're all working together in, producing content model and also user stories. I haven't got that document open, but being very specific about who the demo's for, how it's going to work, and what goals we want to achieve with it.
What's the next decision or next point you're working towards, next milestone you're working towards?
At the moment, it's mainly producing a convincing magazine mock-up. So based around this working title of umami, producing the brand for that and just a working brand, producing articles. So we're going to be working on actually producing sample content. Back on the farmers market project, we got quite a long way down the road for producing actual sample content. And we're going to do the same for this just to help keep it rolling forward. We've also got to start thinking about what type of images we want to source, how we're going to source them. Lots of work around the content, because I think a key component to this is going to be how the content itself comes through the theme, because obviously that's primarily where we want the design field to come from as well, just through this content.
I can imagine that on the content front, it could be useful to open up the work and share responsibilities and tasks.
Yeah, that is the plan.
I figure that if we want to build a view that lists recipes, we need at least 5, ideally 10 recipes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a certain amount of bulk to be generated here. So
yeah, definitely some crowdsourcing around that as such.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Just getting ideas into the pot effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main other thing is just finishing off these wireframes as well, just getting a really good solid idea behind. We've got the user stories, we know what we want the demo to achieve in terms of initial goals, so making sure that the actual content types that exist and the layouts that we're proposing around that do a really good job of showing off the key points that are in those user stories in terms of the types of content and how they're laid out. So relationships is a really good example if we dive into a little bit of detail on this recipe example here. So we've obviously got the recipe, we've got field-based content, very specifically field-based content. So we can think about how we demonstrate good structure around collecting content for a specific content type, but also relationships. So how recipes might relate to an author. What I've not got to yet is taxonomy. I mean, taxonomy is a huge part of this. If we think about the way that we might be able to surface some of the terms and really show off that perspective, where a single taxonomy term could serve a whole a whole variation of content.
Looks to me that you're working on that stuff, so keep it up, I would say.
Great.
And yeah, especially on the content planning and resourcing bit, would be good to eventually see some of that stuff end up in regular issue queues so that we can share it with people.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the one of the key things to talk over this week, is just to take a look at these wireframes and say how can we actually get some ideas together about sharing out the way we want to collect the actual content to go into this.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
No problem. Thank you.
Another thing from the initiative is the installation profile and the designs that needs to be developed for that screen. For showing there's nothing done yet, but we are planning to start to work on that also.
Yeah, I think it would be a great next step to ensure that we have a way to visually express what this is about and make users understand what they are getting into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, do we want to talk about ideas and roadmap in 4 minutes?
Probably not. Well, I think I can talk pretty fast. Let's see if I can talk 4 minutes really fast. So here's the deal. A while back, we came up with a roadmap, we meaning the product managers, some of the usability team leads, as well as the other core committers. We posted that to the ideas queue for feedback maybe a month ago or so. And feedback overall has been positive, although people wanted to hang more ornaments on the Christmas tree, and sort of the intent was like, we're done hanging ornaments on the Christmas tree. This is node 2858592. And so basically that work was done, which is great. We need to figure out a place to publish that stuff in a more permanent place than node 28592. And B, one of the things that's super confusing to people is like the ideas right now are all kind of all in a big clump. But we're starting to figure out that in terms of core committer confidence level and such, the release managers particularly really want to limit the amount of things that we're taking on in any given release. And so they want, in 8.4, for example, they don't want us to push on implementing Emily's stuff. They want us to wait until 8.5 for that, because what they want us to do in 8.4 is stabilize what we've got. Because we currently got like, I don't know, 9 experimental modules that are all in various stages of alpha or beta. And at least 4 of them are going to get kicked out of core if they're not done by the end of the 8.4 cycle. So somehow communicating that to people. So my idea was to basically start committing just like some text files or something to the repo, so that in the ideas queue, there's actually a version selector of 8.4x, 8.5x, whatever, so that we can start communicating this out to people that anything tagged 8.4 is something that we're specifically planning to target for 8.4. So this would be things like the Migrate initiative, the media entity, and the media library initiative, some of the API first changes, that kind of stuff. Versus other things are 8.5, so meaning the next release, and then other ones are like way out in the future because they don't have consensus yet, or we haven't evaluated them yet, or this kind of a thing. And so using version numbers as a way to communicate that. And I just kind of wanted to run that idea past folks and see if they thought that was a good idea or not. In 1 minute. So we can talk in Slack basically, but that's my overall thinking. Thoughts? All right, rendered you speechless. Excellent. So
at the same time, I just in the hour before this one started adding requests for filling out the idea template issue, adding that to some of the ideas.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Can we do that? Can you change?
Oh, I just edit the issue summary and pasted in our 4 questions. What might be useful is, can we set that as the default for?
I don't think that's an option in here. I'm looking, and we can set submission guidelines, which is like a little blurb that appears above the issue form that no one ever reads. So we
the issue summary template, is that a feature of Dreditor maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm looking and I'm not seeing anything like that in here. If anyone knows differently than I do, let me know. But yeah, under issues, like the issues vertical tab on the project page, you can set components to be whatever you want. You can set the default component. You can set submission guidelines, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, so manually.
Yeah.
There's one more link I'm adding to the sidebar. That's the usage stats for core modules.
Oh yeah.
We got that done last week
too.
So WebChick was sitting next to Mixologic, who could parse through gigs of text files to come up with an initial list of installation numbers for individual core modules. And that's in this 2867597 page. Gabor is sharing. It's for Drupal 7 and Drupal 8. And it's interesting to see at least the trends. Let's not look at the...
Yeah, the numbers are a little bit suspect, but it's additional visibility we never had before to tell that, for example, the PHP module is used by 378,000 websites. So in case you needed something to scare you at night, there you go. But it's also nice to see like the relative importance of saying like OpenID was at the bottom of the list of modules installed in Drupal 7 and we removed it in Drupal 8. It turns out that was a good call because hardly anyone was using that thing. So so I don't know how much we should use this data to make product management decisions, but I think even just having it available to people is useful for, like driving some discussions, or, like we often argue with each other that no one ever uses the blah, blah, blah. And here we actually could check. So
so there's one issue idea to remove aggregator. And if you look at the Drupal 8 installation numbers for aggregator, that case could certainly be made based on those usage numbers. It's one input, right, to that decision.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that people were looking at this and deriving, like how much testing do experimental modules actually get? What's how many API sites are there with Drupal 8 now that we have specific modules that you would use for API sites? I was kind of surprised that more than half of the Drupal 7 sites have locale module, and like 41% of the Drupal 8 sites have language modules. So a lot of Drupal sites use language features other than English.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things here.
So anyway, just
just calling that one out. It's just fun to see.
Cool. So yeah, we should have code sprints more often, basically. So that's my take.
Okay, which ends this usability meeting.
Hooray!
Thanks all.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Feature.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.